I am happy to introduce Dave Hufnagel, who graduated from EMU. I don't even remember when. It's been a few years.
2010, I believe.
2010. So it's been about 12 years. So Dave is going to tell us a little bit about his background at EMU, including major, why you chose it, and that kind of thing. And we'll talk about some other stuff too.
Yeah, so I'm Dave Hufnagel, 2010. I was a biology major at Eastern and a chemistry minor. I initially went in to this major basically because I loved the classes and was interested in figuring out what I could do in the biology field. And I ended up going on to grad school, and then that led to a postdoc, and now I'm in my current position.
Yeah, so maybe you can just tell a little bit more about your path after EMU. So you graduated with a bachelor, you did some research.
Yeah, so I got my bachelor's at EMU in 2010, and I did undergraduate research in Aaron's lab. I studied cellulose synthase-like genes, and I was trying to get them expressed in a yeast, Pichia pastoris. And so this was my first project on cloning and molecular biology and genetics. And so from that, I really enjoyed that, and I really enjoyed my microbiology class, and ended up going to do my PhD that next year at the University of Michigan in Matt Chapman's lab. And in his lab, I worked on uropathogenic E. coli and studied how they form communities. And that went on until 2016. And from there, I went on and did a postdoc at the Emory Antibiotic Resistance Center. And I was once again studying bacteria. Specifically, this time it was Enterobacter cloacae, and studying how subpopulations within a community can be resistant to an antibiotic while the general population is susceptible.
Cool. And so from there, you went on to get a job. So can you tell us about your current position? Tell us a little bit about the job that you're doing now.
Yeah, so I am a senior scientist at Microbiologics Kalamazoo. We're a small clinical research organization where a lot of pharmaceutical companies, biotech companies, and even academic laboratories will either have a chemistry program or a discovery program where they'll have compounds that they're interested in following up. And these are, compounds that are either antibiotics or antifungals. So compounds that kill these single-celled organisms that I study. And we end up taking those compounds from them and detailing exactly how they work. So this could include, what species of bacteria or fungi are targeted by an antibiotic? Are there any current clinical pathogens that can be found in the hospital that are susceptible to this antibiotic at this point? What is the target of the drug? How does the drug work? Does it kill the fungi or the bacteria, or does it just stop them from being able to grow? What concentrations of these drugs can prevent resistance development? How quickly does resistance develop? And how much resistance is currently out there? Things along those lines.
Oh, that's really interesting. Sounds like a lot of different tests that you probably have to run.
Yeah.
So what do you like the best about your job?
So best thing about my job is definitely the number of hats that I get to wear. It's kind of, there's some similarities there with the different academic positions that I've been in. So I get to run a continuing education program for the people in lab every month, where either I'll do a presentation or there'll be somebody in lab who will have a paper of interest that they'll want to present. Um, from our work, when we have a client that comes to us and wants a project done, a lot of the times they don't have the expertise to be able to design that project and the proper controls. And so I get to do that, where they'll say, hey, we want to run this type of assay. Our drug has this interesting thing that we don't know how to get around, and we get to design a new project to be able to do that. And then from there, we write up a report similar to like a research paper you would see from an academic lab. And so I get to do writing, editing, experimental design. I get data from the lab that I have to, interpret and then crunch. There's also a lot of management, which is, not something that I was super used to before taking this job. And then learning about how to run a business, which I am definitely still getting my feet wet with.
Sounds like a lot. Sounds like a lot of great science in there too, though.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of controlled science, a lot of trying to make sure our data is replicable and we're confident in what we're giving out to our clients. Because a lot of this data is going to be used for them to apply for their drug to either be used in humans in their clinical trials, or whether it's going to become, a new drug that gets approved. So we want to make sure that what we see is what everyone else is going to be seeing along that path.
It's a lot of responsibility. So I don't know if you have a typical day, but if you did, what might it look like?
Oof. So typical day would be coming in, checking email, which I think that's pretty much everybody's start to their day at this point. And then, there'll be a range of activities that'll then happen depending on what's going on. So we'll have, I'll be study directing anywhere between 2 and 5 projects at a time. And these projects can take 4 days, they can take 6 months. So there'll be a lot of different potential things that need to be done with those projects. So checking in on progress, getting data from the laboratory, making sure everything is, passing our quality control standards. And then I could be interacting with a client, writing a quote, designing an experiment for them, or just trying to communicate with them. This is what's currently going on in the laboratory. This is when you should be expecting data, things along those lines.
Cool. So we talked a little bit about this, but maybe sort of thinking about so how you ended up in your current position in terms of maybe how you decided to go in that direction.
Yeah, so as I was saying, at the end of my PhD, during my PhD, I studied these biofilms that uropathogenic E. coli make. And so I was really passionate about, understanding biology from that angle. But then at the end of my PhD, I saw that, these biofilms can cause bacteria to have increased resistance to antibiotics. And I started investigating, molecular mechanisms of that. And in my postdoc lab, I went to a postdoc lab that specifically studied antibiotic resistance and how this molecularly is controlled at the cellular level. And I kind of just kept steamrolling and building up momentum in this direction, where I personally think this is a huge problem for the human race. It's one of the big questions that I think we have to answer in the next 100 years, up there with climate change. Probably not in the same boat, but it's up there. So currently, there was a recent Lancet report, and I didn't get the numbers, but they were projecting how many deaths occur every year due to antimicrobial resistance. And right now it's around 1.27 million deaths per year are directly caused by antimicrobial resistance, and almost 5 million that are associated with antimicrobial resistance. So it's a lot of deaths. The current projections put it by 2050, there's going to be 10 million due to this problem if trends continue the way they're continuing. That would outpace cancer. So this is a huge toll on the medical field. It's a huge toll on, life expectancy. And so, yeah, I became very passionate about, okay, how do I help to fix these problems? I think understanding the basic mechanisms is incredibly important. And that's what I was doing before. And when I got the opportunity to interview for this position and to take this position, I got to see really, how many of these drugs that will eventually make it to market come through our site, where, there's already tens to hundreds of potential compounds that I've worked with or designed projects for, or written reports about, that, could be the next drug that's really important for stopping a particular type of resistance that we currently see in hospitals. So yeah, that's really why I ended up in this position. I interviewed for some faculty positions and those went great. But I saw this position as really, my ability to make a big impact on the field and to be able to see firsthand where these drugs are going and how they're developed, and getting a bigger overall grasp of what's happening.
Yeah, sounds like a great way to take your knowledge and make a difference, try to make a difference.
Yeah, try it.
um so so what do you, in terms of your classes that you took at EMU, which of them have been most useful to you, and in terms of just your, your trajectory and also your current job?
So definitely two courses come to mind: molecular biology and microbiology. Molecular biology was actually taught by you, Aaron.
You're talking about the lab?
Yeah, I love that
Yeah.
lab.
So
I thought that was
306. Yeah, 306 was
yeah,
that class.
that was awesome. So the reason I like that is it really taught you to think like a scientist. You got data from a lot of different experiments that you had to learn how to interpret. And then we also had the opportunity to present findings. And so I think having all of those is a really good precursor for either graduate school, if you're eventually going to go there, or just thinking like a scientist, or interpreting data independently. Microbiology really had an aha moment for me, where I think my understanding of biology and chemistry were great. I had good grades and understood all these individual processes. And then in microbiology, they take pretty much everything that happens in terms of, you think about different chemical reactions that you study that are important to the cell, or just how a cell works on an individual level, or how like population dynamics can occur. And this all of a sudden is taking place within a single cell membrane, and it's all occurring there. And that just blew my mind, and everything made a lot more sense about biology once I understood it at this single cell level. And so once I took that course, I knew I wanted to continue studying microbiology, and hopefully do so in a way where it was beneficial to society.
Yeah, that's cool. It sounds like
Yeah,
that really was an aha moment. You sort of
yeah,
synthesized a whole lot of stuff, and it just, the light switch flipped.
yeah. It was, I think, yeah, sophomore year probably, and I was just, okay, all these other courses make a lot more sense now, and I can start taking knowledge from other classes, and it all just came together there.
Awesome. Um, so just wondering if you had a piece of advice that you give to a current undergraduate student, maybe seeking a career like yours, what would that be?
So yeah, I decided to do the PhD route, and that really worked for me, where I love learning, and so taking 5-6 years to be able to do a PhD, if you enjoy learning, it's totally worth it. Um, uh, yeah, you'll learn a lot of things, you'll meet great people, and you'll make a lot of connections for future jobs, which is important. Um, The other thing is, yeah, I would say challenging yourself and always learning. So we also, in my position, we also get to, hire people that are straight out of undergrad or straight out of master's programs. And um, there's a lot of success that we see when people are wanting to learn. I think as long as you're committed to continuing to learn and you're interested, then it's going to go really, really well for you, and it'll be very, very easy. Not necessarily easy work-wise, but it'll be easy to show up in the morning. And so, yeah, for whatever type of career you're interested in, make sure you are um, going after one that will really kind of light a fire under you and be something that you're really interested in.
It's awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing. Do you have any final words of advice or anything else you'd like to say to the EMU students or whomever might be watching
Hmm.
this?
Yeah, the number of friends that I have from the EMU Biology Department that are now doing phenomenal things, either as medical doctors or scientists or elsewhere. It's pretty humbling. We had a really good class of a lot of folks who are doing mind-blowing things all across the country. And so yeah, it would just be there's a lot of opportunity out there, and there's a there's definitely places for people from EMU, and you can really do amazing things and get to amazing places with that degree.
Totally. Yeah, I know. I often hear from former students, and it's just impressive to see where you guys go. So
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
yeah. Well, I appreciate you taking the time and yeah, let us know what's going on.
Yep.